Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, author of fantasy romance and romantic fantasy. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Ah, Today is Monday, November 15th, the Ides of November, which has no dark significance. It was just that one thing in March. Anyway, how are you guys? I had a good weekend, busy weekend, fraught in some ways, but also yeah, good. It seemed to go really fast. And next week is U.S. Thanksgiving. Woo! I'm actually really psyched for Thanksgiving this year. I think because last Thanksgiving was so kind of crappy. I don't know about you guys. I mean, it was fine. These things are all relative, right? Um, last year we decided not to that was too big of a risk to travel to Tucson for Thanksgiving or to go see any other family. And so I cooked Thanksgiving dinner and for me and for David and made way too much food for two people. And um, we kind of ate our Thanksgiving dinner and we watched shows and stuff. And I mean, champagne problems, right? It's not like we were fighting off starvation or have loved ones with COVID in the hospital or any of those things, but it was also just not what one would want from one's Thanksgiving. Um, I'm trying to get better about appreciating, like the minor daily stresses that they're not bigger stresses. Like people always say, "Oh, just be glad you have your health." Um, it's hard to be grateful for something that you are accustomed to having, you know. And I know I've mentioned this in the past, but one of when you guys maybe know or don't know that I have my biology, my bachelor's degree. I had a double major in biology and also comparative religious studies. And my religious studies professor, the non-practicing Orthodox Jew, which is a fine joke if you understand these things, that was how he defined himself. He would bring up the fact that when terrible things happen to us, that we ask why, that we say, why me? Why has this terrible thing happened to me? Why am I suffering? But that when our lives go well, when fine things are happening, when wonderful things happen, but even just like the daily goodness, that we don't cast our eyes to heaven and say, why me? And that has stuck with me all my life. Um, especially appreciating that the daily goodness, like I get stressed about getting word count on some days. You guys hear me uh, moan and whine, gnash my teeth over this. But, like then when there's other things going on that get in the way of me getting word count, that, absorb a lot of my attention. It's like I just want to get back to those days when the only thing I have to bitch about is how slowly I'm writing. So yeah. Um, I know I am being vague. I have to be vague. Um, but there we are. So let's see. I gave a workshop on Saturday morning. That was fun. That was actually really fun um, with the Washington romance writers. And they were really interested. I did the sexual tension workshop, and they were really absorbed and involved and asked great questions. And I am really going to finally get after setting up a Zoom schedule or a schedule for doing Zoom classes just on my own so that you guys don't have to do it through these people or other people on their schedule. I'm going to try to have some different classes available on various schedules and give these workshops and uh, time for you guys to ask questions and all of that. It has been sliding down my to-do list for, I don't know, maybe this entire year, maybe longer. But hey, I am going to do it one of these days. Uh, Saturday afternoon was fun because I went to an actual book event at George R. R. Martin's Jean Cocteau Theater. Is there a way to say Jean Cocteau Theater without adopting that accent? I don't think so. Uh, it was for the re-release of a couple of the Wild Cards books, one by John Joss Williams, the other by Vic Milan, who passed away a few years ago. So it was George and John Joss Williams and Melinda Snodgrass, who is a delightful person, just fabulous. And they, yeah, talked for about an hour. And one of the nice things about the Jean Cocteau here in Santa Fe is there's a bar, there's a concession stand and a bar. Uh, and so, we had happy hour and we talked to people. And it was the first time that I had seen a lot of people since pre pandemic. And it was really just kind of awesome. And again, it made me appreciate, like the idle chit chat at book events. Um, I think that we start feeling like these things are an imposition. And I think about past years when I was thinking, oh, I have to get my act together so that we can drive somewhere for Thanksgiving. And now I'm like, woohoo, we got to drive for Thanksgiving. And it's the same way, like there's a lot of times I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to this book event. I'd rather just stay home. But, it's like, oh, I get to go to this book event and make small talk with other people. And so it was really fun. It was a fun evening. Um, I was surprised at how many people wanted to shake hands, and it was like, oh, let's, you know, New Mexico, we're masking indoors, and so people had their masks on for the most part, but I was just like, really, hands? Let's not. And there was one gal who wanted to shake my hand, and I had to do the "Do you mind if we don't?" and and I don't know if she was offended or not. But and I said I have someone vulnerable at home, which I do. David with the Parkinson's. We don't want to take chances. So brave new world, right? So that was fun. And then yesterday was like exciting laundry and lots of syphilis stuff. Um, there's this saw. I don't know what you would call it, a saying, a superstition. I called it a superstition once, where people who have been SIFWA presidents said that being president costs you one book a year, that you end up writing one book less a year. And, it's funny because I don't always know how fast other people write, but it was amusing because one of the SIFWA staff asked me last night as we were tying up something. She asked me if I thought that was true. She was wondering if I was keeping up with my writing. And I was like, my writing has been slower lately, but I don't think it's the fault of the syphilis stuff. But I'm also an incremental worker, right? You guys know this. And I was explaining to her, this is why I'm such a huge fan of having the writing habit where I write incrementally every day. By the way, I did finish my reread, ready to get back to revising this novella today and diving into gray magic. Very exciting. And sorry, I started thinking about the schedule, trying to think of if I can really write gray magic as fast as I think I can. But I've done the math. I'll have to look at my spreadsheets again. That will reassure me. So anyway, and you guys know gray magic is not going to be out in December. It's just not. It's going to be January. I was just thinking about am I sure I'll get it out by the end of January, but I think I will. Deep cleansing breath. Um, Yeah, I'm sort of running the math in my head now. There's not a lot of time, but I know that there's room to do it. I need to revisit those worksheets. I'm going to stop obsessing. Anyway, Um, I don't think it's going to cost me a book a year, but I'm very interested to find out. And she was telling me about someone, one of the previous presidents, whose agent had said that they should spend less time on Cephala and more time on writing. And I said, yeah, but that person also does a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't SIFA or writing. And, it's like, I don't know. I wonder if people don't use it as an excuse sometimes. Um, I feel like writers, aren't we always looking for excuses for why we haven't got something written? Um, and people are different about it, it's and some people are burst writers. They write very intensely for short periods of time, and and me, I'm the incremental sort. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. And I certainly have the data. I have my baseline where I can compare, but I am anticipating that I shall be able to ramp some things down, and I'm hoping to get a lot done this week. So it was funny rereading Bright Familiar. Um, I really loved the ending. Is that bad? Is that really bad to say that about my own stuff? But um, boy, some of those last scenes between Nick and Gabriel when they're kind of figuring out their feelings for each other and everything, I actually made myself tear up at that one scene in the library. If you guys have read the book, where she breaks down and cries, and I just yeah, I got teary, and I really loved the ending. I was like, oh, so I think that's funny. So at least I enjoyed reading my own book this time. Um, so then the other big thing is Taylor Swift, my girl, released read Taylor's version. And I was explaining to someone on the SIFWA Slack, I wasn't sure if they had the background on it because somebody else in the romantic SFF channel said, "Am I the only one?" She said it's not really on topic, but I'm listening to Taylor's, read Taylor's version, and she's my muse. And I was like, I am listening to, and the little mini movie video. It's like a 15-minute, and I'll link to it for After All. Wow, really good, really good. And I'm so impressed that Taylor keeps leveling up. She keeps doing more and more interesting things. And it's fascinating to me that she took this song, from like when she was 20, like a dozen years ago, and she deepened it and added to it. And she managed to give it I don't know, the weight of years looking back now to that enriched it. And I was like, damn, Taylor, she's so good. Yeah, I was just thrilled, thrilled. So, for those of you who don't know the backstory on this, I mean, like if you don't obsessively follow Taylor Swift on social media, because I don't know why, why wouldn't you? Um, what happened is that Taylor Swift was with this one record company, a fairly small one to begin with, Big Machine Records, from the beginning of her career, and she got something in my eye there. Uh, it became pretty much because of her a very big record company. They took a chance on her because she was like 16 or something. Yeah, I might get my details wrong. Feel free to correct in comments, but and became very, very wealthy. And later, when Taylor became, a multimillionaire, she tried to buy back her catalog from Big Machine Records. And I find this interesting because there are a lot of parallels between creators here because like I have my books that I've published, say, with Kensington. People ask me 12 Kingdoms books, they've only put the Mark of the Tala in audio. People ask me, like, when are the rest of the 12 Kingdoms and Uncharted Realms books going to be on audio? And the answer is I don't know. Kensington's sitting on the audio rights. I asked for them back. They won't give them back, but they also won't make the audiobooks. I don't have any power at this point, and it's frustrating. So Taylor did something very similar where she tried to buy her earlier records back. Um, I think I'm pretty sure that Lover is the last one that she did with Big Machine Records. I know that Folklore and Evermore she produced herself, but they did not sell them to her. Instead, they sold them to Scooter Braun. And Scooter Braun is, um, according to all stories, just a real jerk. He also manages or produces and I get a little bit fuzzy on the industry terminology there, but like Ed Sheeran uh, and Kanye West. And there's this very, very long backstory with Kanye and Taylor, and just ridiculous infighting stuff. But anyway, Scooter Braun is probably Taylor's greatest enemy in the industry, and uh, Big Machine Records, the guy, and I don't remember his name, sold Taylor's catalog to her greatest enemy. And he immediately began fucking with her, in that there was a Netflix documentary that was coming out right like that week or the week after time. What is it? Uh, that was about Taylor, and Scooter Braun denied use of her music for this documentary about her because he owned it, not her. I mean, isn't that what a world we live in, right? So she was really thrashing on this about social media. It was very upsetting, uh, and it's just this thing where a creator doesn't own their own work. Like I can't put my books into audiobook because someone else owns it. Uh, and so it is a compelling reason for self-publishing. But someone like Taylor Swift, yeah, she can. She's a multimillionaire. She can produce her own albums. That's really expensive to do. I complain about shoveling out money for an audiobook. This is like a whole nother sphere, right? So anyway, I thought this was really interesting because it was Kelly Clarkson, of all people. And I don't know why I feel like of all people, but I just didn't expect it to be Kelly Clarkson, American Idol gal. Uh, she tweeted to Taylor and said, "Why don't you just re-record your music?" And I think it was like a total light bulb going off. And so now Taylor is in the process, because she has the wherewithal, of re-recording her previous albums. And so that's why it's called Red, Taylor's version. And if you want to support creators, you will not listen to the Big Machine Records version anymore, and you will listen to Taylor's version, because then that goes to her and her people. Uh, and so that's the re-recording of After All. I've been listening to the album this weekend too, and it's wonderful. And it's been I was really interested to hear how much she would be faithful to the original recordings, and how much she would be tempted to tweak. After All, she has definitely done a retelling. It's a very different song now that she's added to and deepened. Other songs sound very much the same as the original, and it's a question we ask. Like if we are reprinting a book, some people like getting their rights back to previously published books, and sometimes there's problematic stuff in there that we didn't realize was bad the first time. Thank you. Or we just weren't woke enough to understand. Times change, jeez. But it's like, okay, how much do you update, and how much do you change, and how much do you keep it cleaving to the original, because the original represents something at a point in time. So I was very interested to see what she did with this. Uh, but now I must go do my own work. So, on that note, I will remind you all that First Cup of Coffee is part of the Frolic Media Podcast Network, and you will find more podcasts that you love at frolic.media/podcasts. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.